Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Big on the Inside, the new Who Doctor Who watch along podcast. My name's Tim Saxby. Howdy, howdy, howdy. With me as always is a man who I once saw wrestle a goose to death. It's Harry Murdoch. How are you, Harry?
Um, I didn't know you saw that.
Yeah, we all saw it. We all filmed it. It's on the internet. Go and watch it. How you doing, Harry? You had a good week?
Yeah, great week. Yeah.
It's an earlier recording for us today. We normally record at around 8 p.m. at night. Today it is 5:30 on a bank holiday Monday. That's right, we work on a bank holiday because we're dedicated to the podcast. Now we're going to go through all the Doctor Who news that's gone on this week, but I'm sure, as most of you are aware, there was a Guardian report about allegations towards Noel Clarke, actor who played Mickey Smith, and since then has been various reports and apologies, and also some allegations towards John Barrowman, who plays Captain Jack Harkness, of a different nature. There's lots of articles on the internet. You can all go and read about them. Basically, we acknowledge it and we know that it's super important news, but where we've not really got any further information to say. And what's probably more important is that you guys go and read the actual source itself rather than listen to us babble on about it. And also, we kind of want to keep it happy over here. We've got some really exciting news coming up. If you do want to hear what we have to say, there's going to be like a short, what do you call it, Harry? It's not a description. It's almost like just a little status thing, isn't it, really?
Yeah, just a short statement establishing our kind of position on the matter.
Yeah. So go and give that a read if you are interested. But like I said, stick around. We've got lots of exciting news coming up. Yeah, so that's all about that. You ready to move on, Harold?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool beans. So, it seems that recently, I've noticed anyway, that since the last couple of weeks, there hasn't actually been a lot of Doctor Who show news, but there's been a lot of Big Finish news, and we seem to be weekly now covering Big Finish stuff. Are you, as someone who isn't a Big Finish listener, you kind of getting a bit excited about some stuff from Big Finish?
As kind of a very open fan of the kind of Eccleston era and Christopher Eccleston's portrayal of the Doctor,
Yeah.
I have been keeping a keen eye on news surrounding that specifically because that is something that looks very interesting. And kind
Yeah.
of the more information that comes out, the more promising that seems to be becoming.
Yeah. So have you had a chance to listen to the short extract that they released of the Ravages box set? It was like a 30-second clip, I think, of Eccleston and a Centurion.
Yes, I did.
And what did you think to that? Because we've had the trailer and now we've had this sort of short clip. This month it comes out. No actual release date given. We just know it's going to be this month. I'm really looking forward to this. I think it's going to be. I'm excited and apprehensive at the same time.
Yeah, and I kind of liked the short clip we were given. It kind of eased some very, very slight concerns I had from the initial trailer. Because
Yeah.
one concern I had slightly at the initial trailer was that perhaps the characterization of the Doctor would be closer to the 10th Doctor than a Ninth Doctor, just from short clips from the trailer, such as the whole I did the thing, temporal thing.
Yeah.
Although the way that he acts in the clip we were given, acting quite distant emotionally from the Centurion and kind of trying to fob him off quite quickly.
Yeah.
That felt very Ninth Doctor to me.
Yeah, I liked that. He did. Yeah, there was that, wasn't there? It did sort of seem like he just sort of. I can't think of an interaction he has in the show where he's very much like that, but there are several where people are somewhat interested and intrigued by the Doctor, and he just, like you say, fobs them off and disappears and goes off with Rose and does what he wants.
Well, the thing is that this feels very kind of almost pre-Rose, because if you think at the beginning of Rose, the first thing, even when he talks to Rose initially, he's kind of like, I've saved you. Now go live your life.
Yeah.
Don't come after me. Just leave me alone.
Yeah, that's right. And talking of Rose, who we know to be the only companion of the Ninth Doctor, speaking this week to Doctor Who magazine, Eccleston has mentioned about the fact that there is no Rose and the fact that there is whatever that companion role is going to be for the Big Finish. Harry, do you have a quote there from Eccleston? Now, I feel if I were to read it, I wouldn't give it full justice. for Eccleston diehard fans out there. So Harry, in your own time.
Is this you saying you want me to do my Eccleston voice?
Yeah, it is you.
Okay. So the quote reads, with Chris saying, "So far, we've only had temporary assistance that he meets within the adventures. And that's a very positive thing for me, coming back to the character.
I think you need
Gives
to
me
start
more
this
room to
Eccleston
explore
impression
him."
again. It's not. This isn't the best
Why?
Eccleston one you've done. It's too high
I'm
pitched.
trying to do something a bit more grounded.
No, we want the Knife Doctor. We don't want Eccleston. I should have clarified.
You want me to go full, really terrible Eccleston impersonation?
Yes, please.
Fine. So far, we've
That's
only
better.
had temporary assistance that he meets within the adventures. And that's a very positive thing for me, coming back to the character. It gives me more room to explore him. I'm going to be recording an episode shortly where he's questioned by the Brigadier, played by John Culshaw, about why he's travelling alone, and he shuts it down very firmly. So there may be stuff going forward where we address that.
Lovely stuff.
Are you happy, Tim?
I'm happy. So it just seemed that the whole companionless aspect of the character is going to be a driving force, it seems, for the for this first box set anyway. How do you feel about that? It sounds exciting, right?
Yeah, the thing I'm interested to hear about is if we're going to get any sort of insight into why he has at this point decided to be a loner, and if potentially it links into kind of the whole Time War stuff and the fallout of that he feels like. I'm just interested to hear what kind of justification they go with, whether it's kind of after all that he just needs time to be alone to process that, or if maybe he feels he doesn't deserve companionship after what he's done. I'm just kind of interested to very much hear that perspective and what they go with.
I wonder how close to the Day of the Doctor this box set will start, because it's obviously earlier on in the Doctor.
Do you think we'll get a post-regeneration scene?
I would hope so. I would like to think so. Maybe not straight away. I feel if they're doing the Cybermen and the Brigadier, I feel like maybe save some stuff for future. But then I think, like we've mentioned before, how obviously Chris seems to be having a great time with Big Finish, but when more work becomes available, how willing is he going to be to come back and do more Big Finish in the future? So is it a case of do everything while it's here, or is it a case of moderate it and release it slowly and sort of be more patient with it? I think it's a bit of both, and there's a fine line that they have to kind of tread on, because I know they've also mentioned the idea of doing multi-Doctor stories that we talked about last week, I think, or maybe the week before.
Yeah, we did.
So that's exciting as well, but it's I don't want everything at once, because it's not a special anymore. It'll be like just waking up Christmas Day, going outside and all your presents are already unwrapped. I want to know they're there, and I want that build-up of knowing that there's a possibility the 9th and 10th Doctor could meet, and that he's going to meet the Brigadier and the Cybermen, and are we going to get a follow-up with Rose? Is Rose going to appear in some of these stories as well? Just some fun things like that.
I do feel that with these Big Finish audios, especially with Ravagers, this is just entirely kind of baseless predictions, but I get the sort of vibe that perhaps the story will start kind of following the supporting characters within Ravagers, the Centurion, all that, and then the 9th Doctor will enter the scene almost akin to Rose, rather than as following the Doctor from the start. Yeah. Which, if that is the case, I imagine there wouldn't be any kind of post-regeneration scene, which feels good. Like you said, it kind of leaves breathing room. It doesn't kind of completely. Because if these specials started with the post-regeneration and ended with just before Rose, him going after the Autons, then there would be literally no space for anything else.
No, you're right. I also feel like, I was just going to irritate. What's the word I'm trying to say?
What's the word?
Irritate? Reiterate what you were going to say.
Reiterate.
Yeah, that's the boy. We'll carry on with Big Finish. We've got some more Big Finish news here. Is that there has recently been, I think it was on the Big Finish podcast, Nicholas Briggs, or one of the co-directors of Big Finish, mentioned that they have been in talks with Capaldi and Smith to come and do some Big Finish adventures. Both apparently giving the same response that Eccleston gave, which is yes, but not now. Now's not the right time for me to do this. which, you know, I'm excited. I would really, really, out of the two of them, would really like some Capaldi audio stuff. I feel like that would be more exciting, especially with Nardole and Bill. We only got that one series.
Yeah.
How long do you think it should be after playing that role on telly to then come in and doing some Big Finish work? And whilst you answer, I'm just going to look to see when David Tennant first did his.
That's what my question was going to be. How much time was there between Tennant leaving the role and coming back? And also to take into account that in addition to the gap between him leaving in End of Time and him going to Big Finish, there was also him being in Day of the Doctor, which would kind of adds kind of an extension to that waiting time. I don't know.
I think Day of the Doctor was also whilst he was also whatever, you know, he was also doing Big Finish at that point.
Oh, was he? Was already doing
2000. Actually, no, I am completely wrong. David Tennant's first, or one of his first Big Finish was in 2016.
Okay, so he left 2010, 3 years. Then he did Day of the Doctor, another 3 years, and he did
Big Finish.
The first Big Finish.
Yeah.
It's been, well, at most that's 6 years, and it's been more than 6 years since Matt Smith has left. The thing is,
yeah, it has, hasn't it? Yeah.
Matt Smith is having a pretty successful career in American television. I mean, you know, he's one of the main characters in an upcoming Game of Thrones spin-off, which is probably going to be like the new biggest show on TV around the world.
Yeah, we've all seen those pictures of him with his lovely William Hartnell white wig, and also in The Crown as well. And there's something else he's working on as well that I can't exactly remember.
He's in an upcoming like the Right film, isn't he?
Oh yeah, Last Night in Soho or something like that. It's a vampire film. It should be exciting, I think.
Matt Smith is a vampire.
I'm not sure if it's vampires. I know it's got vampires within it, I think. Shall I find the description?
I can see him as a vampire.
Edgar Wright. Edgar. Oh, he's also
I know he's
Morbius.
not the main character.
He's in the Morbius movie alongside Jared Leto.
Yeah, the Spider-Man villain.
Yeah, the whatever it's going to be, yeah.
Is Morbius also a vampire?
He is, actually. Last Night in Soho. I don't think there has been a synopsis released yet. There hasn't even been a trailer. And it comes out later on this year in October.
Really?
October this year. A young girl, a fashion designer, is mysteriously able to enter the 1960s where she encounters her idol, a dazzling wannabe singer. But 1960s London is not what it seems. I'm sorry, I'm trying to read this, but in the top corner they're playing like a thing of Edgar Wright. I just saw that swan from Hot Fuzz and I lost track. And time seems to fall apart with shady consequences. And it's a horror film. I think it's vampires. I could be completely wrong. But yeah, it's got Matt Smith in it. Yeah, it's got some other people in it as well. So it should be good. But anyway, Doctor Who.
Well, we'll be seeing it because, yeah. So Smith, I feel like, is currently off the cards just because of how busy and successful he is right now.
Yeah.
I think Capaldi is also, you know, he's gone off to LA himself, hasn't he? He's in the Suicide. That being said, I get the vibe that he's one of the characters who's going to die super early on.
I don't know, because for anybody who's seen the Suicide Squad trailer, there's a scene where the rest of the squad are interrogating Capaldi's The Thinker, which makes me think that he joins about halfway through. It makes me feel like there's an early team that then get dismembered, blown up, and then they have to reform with a second team later on that Capaldi will be in that.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they will kill him off. It seems like too obvious of a choice, I feel, to kill Capaldi off.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I have my own kind of predictions for that film, which is, I mean, I don't know if I'm not James Gunn, but if I was doing that film with what we've seen, I would have like the first act be a super like elaborate like introduction of all these characters, like going into all their backstories, really properly establish all of them. Then like at the end of the first act, just have a huge action scene where most of them die.
Harley
That's how
Quinn?
I would do it.
Yeah.
Just because it would be. But well, Harley Quinn's obviously going to live. I feel like all the cast from the first film are going to live, and I reckon like Polka Dot Man, I feel like he's going to live just because he's funny. It would be funny if Polka Dot Man lives.
That's true. Harry, last night, did you watch Line of Duty? Have you been watching Line of Duty?
That's something I need to go back and watch. I know that it was the finale last night, and it was like
Not well
it got
received.
super great ratings. And I know that people were disappointed by it. That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
Maybe now that it's happened, now would be a good time for me to go back and watch the whole thing with that expectation, and maybe I'll be able to receive it better. I'm not sure.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah. So, okay. So there's been a number of names from Line of Duty thrown around to be the replacement for Jodie Whittaker as the 14th Doctor, and I do think that if you are trying to find out who that actor is going to be, you want to be looking at shows like Line of Duty and Peaky Blind. You know, these big BBC drama programs. What else is there? There's something else on at the moment. I can't remember what it is. But you want to be looking at these big programs to try and see who Chibnall, maybe not Chibnall, as I'll get to in a minute, is going to cherry pick and possibly take from these programs. So the current favourites from these shows are, of course, Vicky McClure, who is the lead and actually plays Kate, I believe. And also from This Is England, there is Kelly MacDonald, who we mentioned before, who I've since found out is from Trainspotting. She's the young girl in Trainspotting that Ewan McGregor has a romantic interest with, and also appears in the second Trainspotting as well. And the most recent one from Motherland as well as Line of Duty is Anne Maxwell Martin. I haven't seen Line of Duty, so I can't pass comment, and I know you haven't as well, so I can't really pass comment on either of these as actors and what their talent is. I would kind of rule out Vicky McClure though, because I feel like she's now too big of a name to take on this role. She's almost got that Phoebe Waller-Bridge syndrome for Doctor Who, which is there was a point maybe a year ago where they could have done it, but they're now too famous to do it.
They've surpassed Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Which is a weird thing to say, because Doctor Who's like still a big show, but then like you get these BBC dramas that can get really big audiences.
Yeah. So no, but what do you think then about these? Would you advise people to start looking at these programs as well to try and get an insight into? I wouldn't recommend people look at the main cast. You want to be looking at the supporting cast and things like that.
Yeah, maybe someone like no, I'm not going to do that. I was about to do a cheeky name drop.
Go on. Who was you going to say?
I know that there's been one cast member on Line of Duty, an actor called Nigel Boyle, who has been in previous series, but he was more prominent in the most recent series. And me on my AMA, I was lucky enough to take part in kind of a Q&A session with him, because he was involved with my drama school way back when. But
yeah, I could
that's just literally an excuse. That's literally an excuse for me to go, hey, guess who I know?
I could maybe see it. I could maybe see him more as a villain though than a.
He has. If you look at his headshots since those, he has grown a beard out, and his hair is curly. So maybe that's more fitting.
Oh my goodness! Maybe he's actually Tom Baker. We've never realised.
Or, a bit of a Paul McGann thing.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, he hated that hair. Apparently, Paul McGann. Paul McGann wanted what Eccleston got.
Wasn't that? That was a hairpiece, wasn't it?
Yeah,
because he shaved it for a different role.
Yeah, actually, what is the date today? It's the 3rd. So next week you'll be able to hear our thoughts on the Doctor Who TV movie, because it'll be the anniversary of that, and we've also got our interview with Matthew Jacobs, the writer of the Doctor Who movie. So go and check that out as well when that comes out. I'll mention it again next week. But first of all, Harry, the last piece of news I've got for today is that you will be very happy as a Chris Chibanll hater. You constantly are shouting the words chip balls on the internet. Jodie bad, chip balls. He hates it all. That there is a new rumor going around that Chibanll will be leaving Doctor Who at the end of this current era alongside Jodie Whittaker.
I would like to clarify that I'm quite fond of Chris Chibanll.
I love him.
Harry and Chibanll sitting in a tree talking about how much they like Doctor Who, which is what I would do if I was in a tree with Chris Chibanll. I've had a cracking convo about Doctor Who.
So the rumour is that apparently when Chibanll signed up for the Doctor Who job, it was rumoured that he had signed up for 5 seasons. And now it's sort of being sort of tweets and people now saying it's actually 5 years. And since he got the job to now, it has been 5 years alongside Jodie. I know there hasn't been 5 seasons because they've been doing years on, years off, and COVID and things like that. But apparently, writer Peter, I need to double check the name because I'm not sure I've wrote it down right. Peter McTighe, McTighe. Is that how you pronounce that, Harry?
Yeah.
Yeah, he is the front runner to replace Chris Chibanll. He has wrote for Doctor Who in the past. Most recently, wrote Kablam for Jodie Whittaker's era. Any thoughts on this at all? I personally think Chibanall's going to be sticking around for a little bit longer.
Yeah, I feel like there's kind of very much been a. I know Doctor Who is like the one show of all shows to kind of break formulas and conventions, but if you look at Moffat and Russell, they both had runs which encapsulated at least two doctors, as in new doctors in the starring role, not counting war doctors, fugitive doctors, etc.
Yeah.
And I feel like Chibnall would feel inclined to do the same, especially since a lot of kind of the way that he's running the show seems to be trying to encapsulate the same kind of energy and style that Russell did. So I feel like for that reason, it would make sense for I don't know, maybe we'll have, if it is a 5-season series contract, maybe series 14 and 15 will have a new doctor, or maybe Jodie will stick around for longer, and maybe for an extra series, maybe a series 15 would be some kind of like handing of the torch thing. Or I don't know. There's a lot of ways it could be done. It does feel a little early for Chibnall to leave at the current point in time.
Do you think that's also because Doctor Who hasn't been on our screens as much as it was? You know, Chibnall's been around for 5 years now, but because Doctor Who's been on again, off again, COVID and all this, it doesn't feel like that era has had its time to mature.
Perhaps, yeah, that could be it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't think, I don't know why, because pre-COVID, it was kind of a slower production cycle than it was for, at least it felt like a slower one than it was for previous showrunners. So I don't know if that was just because of weird scheduling on the BBC's part, because obviously the series 11 came kind of later in a year, and then it was a weird thing, the weird way it was all timetabled. Yeah. I'm not sure.
I know that, like that. I think we spoke about it last week. Is that Matt Smith said, and Peter Capaldi as well, they say it's like working in a TV factory. If you do like 9 months of shooting and then 3 months of promo and all that stuff, and then you're back filming again. So it's like an endless cycle of Doctor Who. So perhaps by having the year on and year off sort of thing, it's allowed for people to enjoy it more within it. And whether or not you enjoy it as a viewer is a completely different thing. But it's allowed for the creatives and stuff to be able to do it and also do other things as well. So I think, therefore, that Chibnall and Jodie probably are going to stick around for another series. If it isn't announced that Jodie is leaving at the end of this series, I will be surprised that if we get to the series final and she regenerates, I'd actually be quite surprised to see that. If I had to put money on it now, I would say she's staying.
Yeah, same. Because I feel like a surprise generation isn't something the show does. Like if they're gonna have a regeneration, they want people to know about it, so they'll tune in and see it. Like it's kind of the only exception I can think of was kind of, what was it called, the series 4 finale, 2-parter?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, but the one where it kind of ended on the unexpected cliffhanger of the 10th Doctor starting to regenerate.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, although that was kind of different because that was a point where Doctor Who was massive and like the biggest show on a Saturday night, so everyone was watching it anyway.
Yeah.
So they didn't have to concern themselves with letting people know.
Yeah, I'm just looking here. Doctor Who Series 7. Was Series 7 wasn't split into 2, was it? Series 7.
Yeah, it was. Series 7 was like had 7A, which was Amy and Rory, and then 7B, which introduced Clara.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm
And
just
they
looking
had the
here.
Christmas special in
Yeah, because
between.
it was announced Matt Smith to leave Doctor Who at the end of the year. 1st of June 2013 is when the BBC announced that. So 2013, 1st of June. And then March, April, May. And then there wasn't a Doctor Who episode. So Matt Smith did, the name of the Doctor went out, Series 7 finished airing, and then they announced he was leaving at Christmas. Said the name of the Doctor, Series 13, final episode, 18th of May 2013. Then on the 1st of June 2013, they announced that Matt Smith was leaving Doctor Who.
Although you can counter that by saying that Eccleston, it wasn't announced he was going to leave until 3 weeks into his series.
Yeah, I feel that was maybe a slightly different situation, but I would,
Well, we don't know about that.
if Jodie is going to leave, it's not going to be in the series. It's going to be at the end of the year in the special. Would be my
Most
guess.
likely, yeah.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be expecting an announcement for a long time. Yeah, it's going to be well after
And
Series
I think
13
it's gonna
has aired.
be a long, long
Long
time till the BBC tells us what's happening with Jodie Whittaker.
We
Is she staying on the show or will she go? Oh.
She's a loose cannon.
Loose cannon. Jodie, by all, from what I've heard, she's anything but a loose cannon. Exactly. I'm sure she's great to work with.
Yeah, so I would expect an announcement until, I can't remember when they said that Series 13 was going to air. I don't think we've got a date. It's going to be around summertime, I imagine. Probably not. Actually, no, they're still filming it now. So I think it's going to be around Halloween time, till we get Series 13.
Similar to Series 11?
Yeah, so if you're going to get an announcement, it's going to be around November time, perhaps. I really do not know. But yeah, any Doctor Who news that we haven't spoken about yet, Harry, that you've seen that you thought, oh, we should talk about that?
Should we do the obligatory part where we talk about how David Tennant's going to be in the 60th? Because we seem to do that every week.
I did think about that this week. What, I can't remember in what context, but I saw something and I was like, oh yeah. I went back and I started watching interviews where people had asked him if he was going to be in the 60th, and I think he said that he generally doesn't know and it's not up to him. He said they might just not ask. And that actually got me thinking. I thought, oh, well, we talk every week about the 60th and we go, oh, well, Capaldi might come back and Smith and Tennant will come back and hopefully Eccleston will come back and we don't know about Jodie. But what if they wrote the 60th and it was just not a multi-Doctor episode?
So, was the 25th? 25th was like that, wasn't it?
The 10th anniversary was the 3 Doctors. The 20th anniversary was the 5 Doctors. And then the 30th was the 2 Doctors. I think that was the occasion.
I don't think that was an anniversary special, the 2 Doctors.
I can't remember, but I'll have a look whilst you tell me what you think.
I know the 40th was just like that special thing on gold.
Yeah. So whilst I look that up, what do you think about the idea of having a Doctor Who anniversary without multi-Doctors appearing?
It'd just be a question of, if that is what they chose to do, how then would they kind of mark the occasion?
Yeah.
What else can you do? Because kind of the obvious thing is kind of bringing back old Doctors.
Yeah. What do you feel like they could do instead?
Maybe just do something really, really big, like just a feature-length special. But
would you like them to bring back like companions?
Maybe companions. Maybe like. Well, I was going to say multi-masters, but kind of that's been done.
Yeah.
I really maybe just kind of bring in some A-lister, like how for the War Doctor, Moffat jokingly wrote, played by the biggest actor and the most famous actor in the world.
Yeah.
Maybe just bring in like an A-lister who you'd never expect on Doctor Who to just be on Doctor Who as a character.
Yeah.
I don't know, Benedict Cumberbatch as Rassilon or something crazy like that.
I'm looking at it. Sorry, it's taking me a while to find out when the 2 Doctors aired, because I googled the 2 Doctors and it says air date 13th of January 1973, which would only make the show 10 years old. So that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I'm on TARDIS Wiki here. Let me see what TARDIS Wiki has to say. 1985. Oh no, that's when it was set.
That's not an anniversary at all.
No, premiere broadcast 1985, 16th of February. Yeah, I don't think it was an anniversary thing. I think
If they released it in 1985 to celebrate the release of Back to the Future.
Yeah, they probably did. Yeah, why wouldn't they want to do that? I think Michael J. Fox. There you go. He would make an amazing Doctor. Or just Christopher Lloyd. Just have the Doctor regenerate into Doc Brown. I would love that for 5 minutes, and then he walks out the TARDIS and like gets hit by Libyans or something like that. I don't know. And then just instantly regenerates into somebody else. But for the rest of time, we have to canonize Doc Brown as the Doctor.
Doc Brown. Doc Brown is just kind of like that. Doc Brown was a Time Lord all along.
Yeah.
Sure, I go with it.
Yeah, why not?
He lost his TARDIS, so he had to make do with DeLorean and plutonium.
Yeah, and he married someone called Clara. So there you go. It all makes sense.
Never got over that dress that was just a little too tight.
Oh, that's so cringy. I don't want to do those episodes. It's like what you said the other week.
That's not actually. That was just like an online special thing, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it does. But it's that thing that you said the other week where it's Stephen Moffat's writing process. Him going, so what if the Doctor meets a woman, but she's sexy and smart?
It's on record. It's on record. Those like interviews with Crystal D on the Doctor Who YouTube channel. You can find it. Said it.
But
they're actually great interviews.
They are really good because it's after he's done the job, so he's very open about what it's actually like. But it is very funny when he's going, but what if she's sexy? It's like, is that it? Is that the only thing for River Song or Amy or Clara?
I mean, his justification for it was like, it would be funny. It'd be funny if it was a sexy woman because the Doctor wouldn't know how to react because, you know, he's the Doctor.
That's very true. That's very true. Should we move on to the watch along, Harry? What is it this week? Gridlock?
Hey, you know, no, it is. I got it wrong in my brain. Yeah. When's, I can't remember the last time that I went on like a proper long car journey, what with like lockdowns and pandemics and all. There's not much reason.
The good thing about lockdown was that the roads were quite empty, so there was no chance of getting stuck in traffic jams or anything like that.
Yeah. Or like even more extreme, I remember like when I was a kid, like driving home from school, like when school was closed early because of it snowing. You'd think that's great, but actually it's not because the streets were packed, and usually like a ride up to like 10 minutes would take like 2 or 3 hours because the roads were completely gridlocked. Oh, speaking of gridlock.
Jeez, that's one of the better ones. It makes more sense, but it was one of the longest, boringest ones that we've done so far.
Wait, so do you not find gridlock like as just general discussion about traffic interesting? Do you not find traffic thrilling?
Imagine the people listening to this going, finally they're going to talk about gridlock, and it's just us going, well, what do you think of traffic?
I think we should change the podcast to instead of bigger on the inside,
stuck in the inside,
longer on the road, the traffic podcast.
And then like the theme tune could be that song where it goes beep beep boop, beep beep boop, yeah.
No, it's just car horns. It's just a cacophony of car horns.
No, and people swearing at each other. Little bit of road rage in there as well. No, it's sure. David Hasselhoff. That thing about his car or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, what? I don't know. He sings a song about a car.
Rider?
No, not Knight Rider. He sings a song about a car, doesn't he? David Hasselhoff.
The Knight Rider is not him with the talking car.
Yeah, but he sings a song. David Hasselhoff song about.
David Hasselhoff sings a song in so many things. You need to.
It's called "Jump in My Car." Jump in my car. I'll jump in my car. I want to take you home. Jump in my car. It's too far to walk on your own. Oh. Come on. I'm a trustworthy guy. I'm a little gal. I wouldn't tell you no lies. How can you say that we only just met? Oh, she's got me there, but I'll get her yet. This is fucking weird. No, you don't.
I have to admit, David Hasselhoff's discography is a gap in my cultural knowledge.
No, you didn't. I was catching my breath. And look, it's starting to rain, and baby, you'll catch your death. Come on. Oh, come. Come. What the heck? His lyrics don't make sense. Come, it comes nothing to try, and you'll arrive home nice and dry. Jump in my car, I want to take you home. Jump in my car, it's too far to walk, and so on and so on.
So it's about a dude cruising.
It's just cruising, and he sees a little girl, and it's raining, and he's like, I haven't got you yet, but I will, so get in my car, or you'll catch your death. It's a lovely song about innocent young love. Anyway, talking of innocent young love, go listen to Gridlock. Bye!
Shut up! Shut up! Shut it down, pop up!
Podcast scans detect you are not subscribed. The Daleks order you to subscribe. Resistance is futile. Failure to subscribe will lead to extermination. Seek, locate, subscribe.
What's the point in having you all?
Harry, what was your thoughts on the news?
It happened, and it was the news.
Your reaction was
Reactionary.
good. Safe ground, covered it all. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the watch long segment of Bigger on the Inside. Still Tim and Harry. I say still Tim and Harry. Maybe one of us wasn't there. Maybe one of us tragically died in a biscuit eating competition. Have you ever entered a biscuit
eating competition?
I just had a ball.
Do those exist?
I imagine so. I imagine there is.
You've got biscuits on the mind.
I've got biscuits on the brain. I can't control myself. I'm going to change my name to Gary Balding. We're back, everybody. We're watching Series 3, Episode 3, which is called what, Harry?
Yeah, 3. Gridlocked by Russell T Davies.
Now, is it Gridlocked or Gridlock?
Well, now I have to check it, don't I?
Just because if I never address it for the episode, it's going to be one of those things.
No, it's present tense, so it's Gridlock.
So what are we watching this week, Harry?
Gridlock by Russell T Davies.
Okay, cool. Now I know I won't mess the format up. I will ask the same questions because whenever we change the format up, never goes well. What did you think of Gridlock, Harry?
I really enjoyed Gridlock. I kind of think of this episode as almost the end of the kind of unofficial, I don't know what you'd call it, like Far Future or New Earth trilogy of End of the World, New Earth, and this. I kind of consider it a sort of unofficial trilogy. And of those 3, I definitely say that this is the strongest of those episodes.
Yeah, I didn't really think of that until big old Face of Bo showed up. And I was like, oh, we're doing this again.
Maybe it's the Face of Bo trilogy.
Yes.
Why don't we call it that?
The Bo trilogy. The Face of Bo trilogy.
That works. I mean, he's kind of a minor character in all 3 episodes, but he's kind of the one thing that connects them.
Is Novice Haim? Oh, she's only in 2. And she nearly came on this podcast until she ignored my emails. How rude. I sort of said, the first note I've got here is that it is like this continuation of the End of the World trilogy. How did you feel about that? The part of me, after we've already done it twice, was sort of like, oh, we're doing this again. But it doesn't really play into it so much.
I mean, it kind of sets yourself up for here we go again from the start with Martha kind of saying, oh, you're taking me where you've taken your last companion. She's quite disappointed about it.
Did you notice when he taps on the screen and he goes, oh, that's where I was before? It's not like new footage or CCTV footage. It's just footage from New Earth. It's just, they've just taken footage from that episode and put it in that little CCTV clip. Just put a little filter on it. It's exactly the same footage. What I want to know is, can anybody in Doctor Who read anybody else's body language? Because Martha, for 2 episodes consistently now, has been completely unable to read the Doctor's body language. This time, when talking about Gallifrey at the start of the episode, he does go back to it later. We'll talk about it later. But at the start of the episode, when she's like, I want to go to the planet of the Time Lords, and he's clearly trying to move past the conversation. She's like, yep, nope, okay, sure. It's like just really quick one-word answers. Does stuff like that maybe get in the way a little bit for you? Do you notice it as much? For me, it's one of the few elements where I go, oh, that's maybe a little bit for kids almost, like they're dumbing down a little bit. Not that it is dumbed down, but it's not as complicated as it maybe could be.
I don't know if I think of it as for kids as much as for the audience. That I feel like, I mean, that's an interesting one, because you're right. It is something where maybe Martha should read the room a bit more on kind of how disconnected the Doctor is when speaking about it. Though at the same time, she doesn't really have any reason to, at that point, think that's a taboo subject or an area she shouldn't go to. And also, the Doctor's this weird alien dude who's been behaving kind of strangely for all the time that she's been with him. Yeah. So she might just kind of think that this alien race behaves a bit differently to humans. Yeah, and maybe that, true, for her makes it harder for her to gauge and read the Doctor.
Yeah. So the opening of the episode really starts with them arriving on New Earth. New Earth or New Earth? Which one is this? Oh no, it's New Earth. New Earth. And then New New York. And then so they step out the TARDIS and they're not in the same place as they were with Rose. They're sort of in the slums, is what I think Martha calls it. And they walk down this alleyway, and all these different shop windows and different stalls, almost like a funfair caravan, burger van sort of thing, open, and they start selling sort of future drugs. And the Doctor is very quickly, when Martha gets kidnapped, he's very clear that he wants to close this street down. I couldn't really understand why he suddenly was so angry to close this street down. Is it just because they are selling future drugs? Or are they drugs? Because people seem to be quite willing to go and get them. People don't seem to be like, it's not like crack or cocaine or weed. It's, I just want to forget this thing. A bit like in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. It's almost, I just want to forget this horrible event. But he's like very adamant to shut that down. Thoughts?
Okay, firstly, I'm very happy to hear you've seen Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, because that's a phenomenal film. But secondly, on the subject of these, I mean, they kind of established very early on that although these aren't explicitly drugs, I think the Doctor refers to them as moods.
Yeah.
They kind of are very clear to establish that they are meant to be kind of an allegory for drugs, because Martha just kind of says, oh, well, it's the same thing. And so I feel like this is just a bit of social commentary from Russell, saying that he's quite against this concept of people taking this artificial medicine that makes you change the way you feel and makes you less of yourself. I mean, I don't know how far you would want to push that. It's a bit of a blurry line between how much of this we're meant to take on face value and how much of this we're meant to read into as a metaphor for that.
I think there's stronger ones in Doctor Who than this, because this is probably one of the early times where I've gone, what's the motivation here? I don't really get it. Well, actually, no, I did get it, but it wasn't 100% clear. It's a motivation where I sort of doubted my own instinct afterwards. But I do.
It does feel admittedly.
Go. Sorry.
It kind of feels admittedly like kind of it's this cool idea as part of this world building that Russell had. Although, whilst it does kind of come back in the end of the episode, it is a little bit of all the elements of this episode, probably the one that I would have appreciated being fleshed out a bit more.
Yeah, that almost seems like it could be a story within itself, like who is behind these, and is there a worldwide event like they are trying to get people to forget anyway? I do love the Doctor's determinism when Martha does get kidnapped. Like he's instant, even though he's only known her 2 days really, or one more. He's been on 2 adventures with her, but his determinism to get her back. straight away after she's been kidnapped. He's just like straight back to the druggies. He's trying to find out where she went. This is a really good 10th Doctor episode, I felt, going through it. I felt this was a really strong one. There's lots of moments in this where that sort of coolness of the 10th Doctor really sort of comes through.
Yeah, I feel like another advantage that this episode has with the fact that he's rescuing Martha, someone who he admits he doesn't know, he barely knows.
Yeah.
In comparison to Rose, it kind of reminds you a bit, really, of the heroism that the Doctor has, that kind of he is willing to really put himself on the line to save people he barely knows. And at the end of the episode, he saves, everyone who is gridlocked. And it kind of, especially after the last series where there was so many instances where the Doctor was all about trying to save Rose specifically, it's kind of refreshing to see him just kind of being just as active for just to help, regular people who isn't supposed to.
Yeah. We touched on it a minute ago. Facebow and Novice Haim. Would you excited to see them back? Is that something that you liked?
Yeah. I mean, I remember as a kid it being like a cool thing that these characters came back. Obviously, I'd only seen them once because I hadn't seen Series 1.
Not a true fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, and I remember, was there a Face of Bow toy from character?
Yeah, there was. I had one.
Was that one of the toys? Yes, because I think kind of for me that was probably my biggest exposure to Doctor Who before I watched the show was kind of those adverts with those toys, and so coming into the show, I had this impression because the Face of Bow was one of the toys that he was like this major character. Actually, watching the show now, I realize he's only in like 3 episodes.
That's it.
But
then he is a major character. He is in the future or in the past.
we just don't know it. Wibbly wobbly timey wimey.
A character I really like in this is Brannigan, played by Ardell O'Hanlon from Death in Paradise. Again, almost joined us on this podcast. Unfortunately, we contacted a fair few guests from Series 3, but it was at the time when we were coming out of and back into a lockdown, so a lot of people didn't really know what they were doing, so it was quite hard to secure people. So we couldn't get Ardell. But yeah, I think he's great in this episode. He's so funny.
He is. He's a lot of fun. Yeah. He's just.
Sorry, go on.
Considering that he's, a cat person, he's surprisingly one of kind of the most kind of grounded and relatable characters. He kind of reminded me.
Yeah.
He gave you that same kind of vibes as kind of that someone like Jackie or Mickey would in a present day episode. They kind of take you kind of, I mean, I can't really say they ground you because they're suspended in midair on a flying hovercraft.
Yeah. We spoke about it a minute ago, the coolness of the 10th Doctor. Now, I think a lot of that comes from the sequence in which he's jumping from car to car with his little not really bandana, his face mask, really.
His face mask, yes.
And
then later on we find out the city is in a 100-year quarantine. You can't escape the COVID analogies.
Even in last time when Face of Bow appeared, the hospital went into quarantine. Russell knows, he knows something.
Is this virus going to follow us onto New Earth? Is there really no escape? Is it going to be with us forever?
But that sequence is super fun. The way the 10th Doctor is just like this sort of cool pirate, just the way he's jumping around from car to car. It did lead me to the question, though, is why has nobody else done that yet?
That's a question, yeah. And also, the question I had asking was, with all these people driving around, surely after so many years, if you've done like a full loop, or maybe has no one been driving around long enough to do a full loop yet?
I don't think so. I think you can do a full loop if you go below, because that's what Martha's car say, don't they? Say, oh, we'll go around again.
But if you go below, you die, don't you?
Let's talk about that. The Macra. First seen in The Terror of the Macra, 1967, in Patrick Troughton. I just know that. That's how good I am. Did I look at a note? I looked at no notes. No.
I didn't realize that was a classic monster. I
Yeah,
had
well,
no idea.
you might not realize it's a classic monster, Harold, because unfortunately it is one of the episodes that has been erased by time. Nobody has a copy. They are yet to find a copy. There is only the odd clip available. But I do believe that they found the audio recordings for the episode. So there is a animated version of that show, of that episode you can watch. We should do some of those. We should watch at least one. I've got Sharda. We'll do Sharda.
Yeah. Ooh, that'd be good. I'd like to watch some, because I know that most of the animated specials are either Troughton or Tom Baker. Tom Baker's Sharda, and those are the two classic Doctors I'm most curious in watching.
Yeah, I think a lot of the ones that have gone missing are Troughton. So, we'll have to do. Maybe we will do Terra Macro. Let us know. What did you think of that? That was good.
Yeah, that was a cool. Well, now I'm just wondering about the design of it and whether I'm guessing, did they have stills from the original episode that they used as a reference, or were they going completely kind of just
a lot
from the
bigger.
audio?
From what are you talking about the animation?
In this episode in Gridlock.
For what I can see in Gridlock, they are a lot, because they're hidden quite a lot of the time by the fog and the mist, and so they are a lot bigger, because when they hold one of the cars, it's like me holding a pen almost. It's very small. But in the original Terror of the Macra, there's a scene where one of the companions get attacked by one, and her torso is the same size as one of the claws on a crab. So they're a lot bigger.
And that's case, when it came to the animation, did they just use the original episode and stills from that as a reference for the Macra, or did they look at Gridlock and use Gridlock as a reference for the sake of continuity?
I don't know. I'll have a quick look. I imagine that they stuck with what was in Terror of the Macra, because I imagine that what am I trying to say here? What am I trying to say? That the audio, you can't really, you have to sort of sync it up, I imagine. That said, I'm looking at a few stills here, and they are big old crabs. What are your thoughts on crabs, Harry? Are you for or against crabs?
I have nothing against crabs. Crab sticks taste nice, though crab sticks aren't actually made of crab, are they? They're like fish with crab flavoring.
I think so,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, crabs are cool. I can vibe with crabs. They're a cool old creature, but make them giant, and they're kind of scary because they're these giant. Crustaceans are they're weird. You don't really know how to place them. Like, are they fish? Are they giant armored bugs? What are they? So kind of that kind
armored bugs.
That's what they kind of look like. If you look like a scorpion or
like a
lobster or a crab, yeah, they're like kind of a giant bug that lives underwater.
Crab's like a scorpion that's been to war.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at or describe a crustacean to someone, it's kind of who'd never heard of them before. It would seem almost alien because they're quite unlike anything else that we have on this planet.
I quite like the Doctor Who monsters where there is elements of real life animals sort of involved. An element that I did like in this is that there is a reason why this character is in this, but I thought the inclusion of what can only be described as Mr. Ben was very interesting. In his little bowler hat, sat there just casually enjoying being on his own. That was a fun character. There is a lot of fun, very short appearance characters. There's the two ladies, there's Mr. Ben, there's Brannigan, there's the two virgins and the big hairy cat person who live together. There's a lot of things going on.
I was thinking watching that Russell and the set and costume designers clearly had a lot of fun putting those weird and wacky things together. I remember I saw some journalists talking about The End of the World from Series 1 when it first came out and describing it as a very kind of Douglas Adams-y Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy feel with all the weird monster designs.
Yeah.
And you definitely get that kind of very quirky, campy sci-fi vibe with this episode.
Well, you might notice that at the start of the episode, like the pre-title sequence is an old man and an old woman getting killed by some Macra. They are, if you look at them, they are the characters from the famous painting American Gothic. It's them. And So they're in this, and then I know this because I listened to the audio commentary as well. As Russell said that it's from what I picked up on what he was saying anyway, it's a very Russell T Davies thing, and he was starting to talk about this is on the audio commentary as well. It's getting away with quite a lot for a BBC audio commentary. He was talking about the sexuality of a lot of these different characters, and saying that there's a cat having sex with a woman. There's another cat having sex with two chained up virgins in when they call down. You know, she looks more like a cat than Brannigan does. There's the two lesbian old ladies, and there's a lonely businessman all by himself. So despite it being aimed at children and families, Russell still is able, not that I have a problem with it at all, is able to put in some classic Russell T Davies moments in there.
Yeah, that was the one question I have about those cat people human relationships is a simple biology question, which is if we see a couple that's a cat person and a human person, why are their children just regular cats?
I did think that maybe they grow up and they sort of develop human instincts.
Do they grow up and okay, maybe
it's like an American Werewolf in London but in reverse. So that bit where his bones grow into a cat, into a werewolf, they just grow into a big meaty chunk.
Yeah, that's strange to think about.
Going back to
another thing, which
sorry, go on. No, you first.
Because sticking on kind of like the more adult themes within this episode that would go over your head as a kid, there isn't as much of a kind of explicit adult theme, but something I don't think a kid would register, which is that the couple that kidnapped Martha, one of them is wearing an honesty patch on their neck. And kind of Martha actually criticizes that and that she's with someone, and yet they still need to. I find that interesting, like the implications of, you know, there's this couple that like life partners, they're going to have a baby together, and yet one of them still feels that they can only be trusted if they wear this honesty patch on their neck that forces them to tell the truth. Yeah,
because Martha rips it off, doesn't she? She says you shouldn't be using these while you're pregnant or whatever. But yeah. No, yeah, I bet we could go back and look at different episodes and notice more similar themes that just flying over our heads. Going back to Mr. Ben, I just want the reason that character is included and the style of this episode and different odd little characters that appear is Russell based the look of this off Mega City 1, which is the fictional city from the Judge Dredd comics. And in that, there is a businessman who looks exactly like the businessman that we see. So there's your little, for all you Judge Dredd fans out there, if there is any, there you go. There's that for you. And the American Gothic. Yeah, so for fans of art and comics, we like to please all on Bigger on the Inside. The Doctor's reaction to meeting Novice Haim. I really like that because he's like, Novice Haim, gives her a hug and he goes, hang on, get off.
That's just kind of very indicative of the Doctor. The Doctor's always excited to see people, and even more excited to see people they've seen before.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny. You wonder, do you think there are certain like explicit monsters that the Doctor would react in a similar way to?
I bet.
So you can kind of imagine. Oh no, wait, it's the Savine. Oh wait, no. Savine,
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, I especially if he hasn't encountered them since. Almost like a fan reaction. Go, oh, it's the Sea Devils. Cool. Oh wait, no. I think that's
an Doctor I always enjoy. No matter like how kind of brooding or angsty they may get, they always have that joy and love of the universe and the people that live in it.
Yeah. So I'm going to skip the rest of my notes really towards the end of the episode because the rest of the episode sort of is self-contained within these little cars that fly around sort of New York. But what did you feel about the fact that there isn't really a villain in this episode? There's the Macro, but they don't really do much.
The Macro is just kind of a monster.
Yeah.
An all-consuming monster, yeah. I mean, it wasn't really something I thought about until you mentioned it, that there was no real villain. Yeah. It's not like, I know in Capaldi's last episode, they kind of make a big deal about, oh, there isn't an evil plan or a big bad guy. But here, like, that's also the case, but I didn't really think about it, and they didn't need to acknowledge that there was no real villain.
Yeah, it doesn't feel.
And in a
like
way,
there
that's kind
needed
of
to
more
be one.
effective.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like I need someone pulling the strings. It still functions and works without that.
Definitely. I'm going to skip along to the end. Do you have anything else from the middle of the episode that we haven't spoken about?
No, but kind of getting to the finale, because I imagine you want to get to the meaty stuff. I just want to make the observation, as soon as we the sky opened and we saw New York. I had to count on my fingers. It looks a lot like Coruscant from the prequels, don't you think?
It could do. I'm not too familiar with the prequels, but actually, no, you are right. Yeah, I can see it now. Yeah. I never thought of that. Yeah, but no, the imagery. Yeah, definitely.
That was the first thing that struck me. There was just kind of the CG of the time, or the fact it's a futuristic city. That was immediately what hit me when I saw it.
No, it definitely does. One of the main things of this episode is that the whole payoff of this episode sort of comes in the last 10 minutes with the death of the face of Bo. A moment's silence, please. Thank you. How did you... It's quite sad to see the face of Bo die. I remember when he died when I was a kid, I didn't cry, but I remember going, oh man, that sucks. I really liked the character of the face of Bo. I liked it when he turned up because it was such a visually appealing prop. It looks really cool. And when I've seen that at the exhibition and stuff, it's a really cool prop to look at because there's really like minute details on it. But yeah, they got to take the big old face out of the tank. I must say that the 10th Doctor gets an amazing line in this where he says, "Don't go dying on me now, you big old face." As he's trying to save everybody. What did you think to the death of the face of Bo?
It's weird how well it works, because obviously this is a character we've only met the times that the Doctor has met him. And yet, despite that, the Doctor treats him as this old, dear friend. And the way kind of in those final moments he talks to him and treats him is with such kind of affection and reverence and just kindness. It really works. And I do feel like, oh no, I don't want this guy to go.
Yeah. I listened to the audio commentary, watched Confidentials, in which they were saying that even on the day when they got to take it out the tank, like, I think people were like welling up on set because it was like, oh man, the face of Bo's dead, but it's just this big rubber thing. There's no one there. It's not like it's a man in a costume. There's a guy stood on the side of the set reading off a script, but that's about it. So I think it's quite strange that it does have that effect on people. Did you notice? Because I didn't. And this episode came out in 2007, so it's been over 10 years. Yeah, over 10 years since this episode came out. That whole end sequence takes place in the same set as the End of the World part. The End of the World. Like that meeting room.
Was that the same set?
Yeah, it's the same set, but they've just redressed it, dimmed all the lights. Yeah.
I had no idea. That did not register with me at all.
No, it didn't me. And it's one of my favourite Series 3 episodes, I must say. But I've never ever noticed that until last night when I watched listened to the behind the scenes stuff. Anything else you want to say about? Oh, You Are Not Alone. We should probably talk about that. That's kind of exciting.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Oh well, we know what it means. Let's not talk about what we know what it means. What did you think it meant when it was first said?
When it was first said, I really didn't know.
No.
I guess the idea that the Time Lords weren't all gone, that maybe Gallifrey was still alive in some form, or was perhaps it, or that someone else survived at the end of the Time War. But obviously not knowing any of Classic Who and its history or any of the characters from it, I did not anticipate what we eventually got.
See, I knew what had been before because I did a little research, but I didn't expect them to do it. What I do vividly remember and being very annoyed at was that as soon as he says, "You are not alone," and it says YNAN on the screen,
That's not until that Utopia, is it, that we see that visual?
Oh, sorry, it's not. But he says you are not alone.
Yeah.
As soon as that was said, my mum, who I was watching it with, went Yana. She said that. She said that word. She said the word Yana like that, and she went, "Oh, I bet that's." She knew that that would have something to do with it, and I was like, "Oh, don't be so stupid. You just made that up." But yeah, maybe the name Yana does have some repercussions later on in the series. Anything else, Harry? Anything else about this episode?
Obviously, the way that Martha confronts the Doctor
yes.
and forces him to reveal it's very different. Again, it's kind of interesting to see how Martha kind of, because these are the very similar beats to the ones that we saw Rose go through back in series 1. It's interesting to see how Martha tackles them very differently.
Yeah. She's
Whereas
more
kind of Rose
confrontational.
waits. Yeah, absolutely. Like I was about to say, Rose waits for the Doctor to feel like he's ready after that initial argument. But here, Martha is adamant and is just going to get it out of him.
Yeah. I feel like when Rose first met the Doctor, he was still sort of, I don't want to say in shock from the Time War, but was sort of reclusive in himself and didn't want to express himself. But Rose knew that he should, so she sort of waited till he felt comfortable to do that. But now he is, but he's just keeping secrets for the sake of keeping secrets because he doesn't really trust people, maybe. But Martha's like, I know you're not telling me the truth, so what is it? Rather than, I'm just going to wait for you to tell me, because she knows that he can tell her. He's just choosing not to. Anything else? Anything else, Harry?
I just think it's a very lovely note that it ends on. Like the way, it's just a great piece of acting from David Tennant when he does finally open up and start talking about Gallifrey.
Yeah.
And that is kind of, it's probably one of the hardest acting challenges in playing the role of the Doctor, in really trying to sell the fact that you've lived this life that's longer than any human can live, and you've experienced those things, and you've lived on this amazing planet.
Yeah.
But in that moment, you really buy it. You believe, that he experienced that he remembers that planet, and that the things he's describing are things he remembers from this long ago time.
Yeah, definitely. Just before we move on, one thing I did want to say is it's time for a quiz.
You, not me. I hate being patient. Patience is for wimps.
Oh boy, let's go!
I got him again. 3 questions. Can you name the name of the newscaster? The blonde woman who is reporting the news every day to the citizens of New York. What's her name?
No, I can't.
Ah!
Hologram.
She has a name. The character has a name. What is it?
Melanie Newsbury.
Sally Calypso.
Well, I gave you a name.
What is the gender, or what will be the gender of the child that that Martha's kidnappers are having? They're having a baby. What gender will that baby be?
Is it a girl?
It's a boy. Last question. When the Doctor hands Brannigan his coat, he tells Brannigan who gave him the coat. Who gave the 10th Doctor his iconic trench coat?
I remember clocking that and thinking that would be a question you'd ask me. But now in this moment, I can't for the life of me remember who it was.
Pick anybody from history. You could be right.
It's a really specific person. It's not just some general like king or queen or something. It's a very specific historical figure, and I can't.
Go on. Just name someone. Janis Joplin was the answer.
Yep.
Just because I feel sorry for the listeners. You'll probably know. Do you sometimes... So you got nothing there, 0 out of 3, well done. Do you watch the episodes and think, Tim's going to ask me about that? I should remember that.
Sometimes I do. Sometimes if there's a really specific thing that the Doctor like alludes to or references, I kind of think that could be a question Tim's going to ask.
And it was.
There's always a question about like one odd throwaway thing that the Doctor says. You always pick one of those as a question.
I do, yeah. Maybe one week you should write down what you think the questions are going to be. One week you should question me. You should do it back to me. One week you should go, Tim, I'm going to do the quiz on you, but don't tell me when. Do you have anything to recommend, Harold?
Before I go, I just want to tell you.
I'd actually like to recommend, because you mentioned it, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Yeah, it's a good film.
It's a great film. Charlie Kaufman. It's directed by Michel Gondry. Stars Jim Carrey and is it Kate Winslet?
Kate Winslet, Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, is Mark Ruffalo in it?
Yeah, he's one of the scientists that fits the collar to his head.
Yeah. No, it's a great cast, great film. It's probably Jim Carrey's best performance that he's ever given. It's a much more naturalistic, grounded performance than what he usually gives. It's a great story. Conceptually, it's great visually. It looks stunning. It's a fantastic film all round.
Cool. I'm going to recommend the band Years and Years. Now, they're probably best known for being singers and songwriters, obviously. But Ollie Alexander... Is it Ollie Alexandra or Alexandra?
It's Ollie Alexander.
Ollie Alexander. Richie from It's a Sin, the Russell T Davies series. Now, they've done a cover of It's a Sin by the Pet Shop Boys. And I just put their stuff on shuffle on Spotify this afternoon. And they've got some really good stuff on there. A lot of covers that are really good. So yeah, go check those out as well. But whilst you're also on your mobile telephone, go over to Twitter and follow us at Bigger on the Inside. Instagram, Bigger on the Pod. YouTube.com/Bigger on the Inside. Acastshows.acast.com/Bigger on the Podcast. Bigger on the Podcast, yeah. Leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and tell a friend, and also subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. You've got to follow us on Twitter, because whenever we get exciting guests who could possibly be joining us, we do tend to announce those on Twitter and tease them on Twitter to see if you can guess who they are. By the time you listen to this, you will already know who the current guests are. We have two. Well, we currently have one recorded that will be coming out in the next... I think by the time... I won't say it just because I don't want to spoil it in case I haven't said it. That will be coming out within 2 weeks. And then one that is yet to be recorded and is just on the edge of getting confirmed will be coming out the day before that one. So you will have 2 days of exclusive Doctor Who interviews with people involved in the show. How exciting is that, Harry?
That is incredibly exciting. I feel like the interviews that you do are some of the best things that we put out. Sometimes I get to be a part of them, and it's always a joy to be able to chat to people about their experiences with Doctor Who. And even when I'm not, they're always a great listen.
Yeah, definitely. So go check those out. There's a playlist of some on there. We've spoken to Albert Valentine, who played the Empty Child, like one of literally the only interviews he's ever given about being in Doctor Who. We've spoken to a few Doctor Who artists, Johnny Morris, big Finnish writer, Daniel Evans from the Christmas Invasion, also theatre performer, theatre director, and many more as well. So go and check all those out. There's 2 more on the way. Hopefully 2 more on the way. Or 1 guaranteed, 1 possible. So go and check those out. And I will see you later. So I'll say goodbye. Ta-ra, everybody. What do you want to say, Harry? Do you want to say goodbye?
Bye-bye.
Woohoo!